Behold, a masterpiece of courtly portraiture. The subject, resplendent in silks and jewels, gazes out with an air of regal composure. Her skin, seemingly flawless, reflects the candlelight with an ethereal glow. A vision of unparalleled beauty and power, wouldn't you agree? But let's peer a little closer, shall we? Behind the gilded frame, beyond the carefully crafted image, lies a story far less glamorous, a story steeped in the pungent aroma of unwashed bodies and the creeping horror of unchecked disease. This is not a fairy tale, my friends. This is history, raw and unvarnished. And today we delve into the surprisingly unsavory world of royal hygiene, or rather, the shocking lack thereof. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the past, a journey where the stench of reality clashes violently with the glittering facade of royalty. We'll be exploring the lives of powerful women, queens and princesses who, despite their elevated status, lived amidst a miasma of their own making. Forget the sanitized version of history you learned in school. Forget the romanticized depictions of courtly life. We're going to uncover a truth far more unsettling, a truth that reveals a stark contrast between the perceived glamour of royal existence and the often horrifying realities of their daily lives. Think opulent ballrooms, shimmering gowns, and a pervasive, almost unbearable odor. Imagine the whispers behind jeweled fans, the discreet avoidance of certain courtiers known for their robust personal aroma. We'll uncover the surprisingly infrequent bathing rituals, the toxic cosmetics that masked more than just blemishes, and the rampant infestations that plagued even the most powerful of women. We will examine the horrifying consequences of these practices, consequences that extended far beyond personal discomfort, impacting health, sanity, and even the course of history itself. This isn't just a tale of bad smells and itchy heads. It's a chilling exploration of the human cost of vanity, the price of adhering to societal expectations, and the profound disconnect between the image projected and the lived reality. Over the next hour and a half, we will unravel the secrets hidden beneath the layers of silks and jewels, exposing the grim realities that lurked beneath the polished surface of royal life. Prepare to be both informed and perhaps a little disgusted, because the truth, as they say, often smells a lot worse than fiction. And in this case, that truth is undeniably pungent. Let's begin. We often picture royals as paragons of cleanliness, bathed in fragrant waters and surrounded by pristine linens. A vision, perhaps, more closely resembling a modern-day spa than a medieval castle. But reality, as we're already discovering, was considerably less fragrant. The myth of perpetually clean royals is precisely that, a myth. The truth is far more pungent. To understand the hygiene practices, or rather, the lack thereof, we need to step back and consider the context. Modern sanitation, as we know it, simply didn't exist. Running water was a luxury, not a given, even in royal palaces. Indoor plumbing? Forget about it. The very concept of regular bathing, as we understand it today, was alien to many historical periods. In fact, frequent bathing was often viewed with suspicion, even considered unhealthy. The prevailing medical wisdom of the time often advised against frequent washing, believing that it weakened the body and made it more susceptible to illness. This belief, however absurd it sounds to us now, was widespread and deeply ingrained in the culture. So, the idea of a queen showering daily is not only anachronistic, but also completely counter to the prevailing medical understanding of the time. Instead, imagine a world wherein frequent bathing was the norm, even for those at the pinnacle of society. Think of the sheer logistics involved in preparing a royal bath. We're not talking about a quick shower. We're talking about a monumental undertaking involving numerous servants hauling buckets of water, heating it over open fires, and then painstakingly filling a large tub. This wasn't a daily affair. It was an event. And the resulting bath, well, let's just say it wasn't the relaxing spa experience we might envision. Accumulated cosmetics, sweat, and grime all contributed to a rather robust broth. One can only imagine the aroma. Furthermore, The very materials used for cleaning were often questionable. Soaps were often harsh and ineffective, and the water itself might be contaminated. The result? A less than hygienic experience that, frankly, probably did more harm than good. This wasn't a matter of laziness or neglect. It was a reflection of the scientific understanding, or rather, the lack thereof, of the time. It was a world where the very concept of hygiene differed drastically from our modern understanding. And this difference is key to comprehending the shocking realities we are about to explore. We'll see how this lack of sanitation directly contributed to the spread of disease and the overall unsanitary conditions in which even the most powerful women lived. Let's be blunt. Many royal women throughout history didn't bathe very often. We're not talking about skipping a shower every now and then. We're talking about weeks, sometimes even months between washes. This wasn't a matter of personal preference. It was a deeply ingrained cultural practice, influenced by a confluence of factors, from limited access to water to prevailing misconceptions about hygiene. Imagine the scene: a grand palace, glittering with gold and jewels, yet harboring a potent aroma that would make even the most seasoned sewer worker balk. This wasn't just a lack of personal cleanliness. It was a systemic issue, a reflection of societal norms and the limitations of the time. The very act of bathing was a significant undertaking, often requiring a team of servants to haul water, heat it, and prepare the bath itself. This wasn't a quick dip in the tub. It was a full-blown production, a logistical nightmare requiring considerable time and effort. For some royal women, a monthly bath was considered excessive. Can you imagine? A month's worth of accumulated grime, sweat, and who knows what else, all simmering together in a single, questionable bath. The very thought is enough to make one shudder. But this wasn't simply a matter of practicality. Societal beliefs played a significant role. The prevailing medical understanding of the time often discouraged frequent bathing, associating it with weakening the body and making it more vulnerable to disease. This wasn't limited to a single era or culture. From the opulent courts of Renaissance Italy to the grand palaces of 17th century France, infrequent bathing was a common thread among the elite. The belief that cleanliness was somehow detrimental to health was widespread, influencing the hygiene practices, or lack thereof, of even the most powerful women. The cultural stigma surrounding frequent bathing further solidified this practice, making it not just a matter of convenience, but also a matter of social acceptability. This wasn't simply a matter of personal hygiene. It had far-reaching consequences. The lack of regular bathing contributed to the spread of disease, infestations, and a general atmosphere of, let's just say, less than ideal sanitation. The consequences, as we shall see, were far-reaching and profoundly impacted the health and well-being of royal women, highlighting the stark disconnect between the perceived glamour of court life and the often horrifying realities of their daily lives. The next sections will delve deeper into the specific consequences of this infrequent bathing, revealing a side of royal history that is both shocking and undeniably fascinating. Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, a symbol of English strength and elegance. Her portraits depict a woman of refined beauty, her skin seemingly flawless, her presence commanding. But behind the carefully crafted image of regal perfection lay a reality far less glamorous. Elizabeth, like many of her royal contemporaries, didn't bathe frequently. In fact, reports suggest she bathed only once a month, a practice considered excessive by some of her contemporaries, highlighting the prevailing attitudes towards personal hygiene during that period. Imagine the scene: the Queen preparing for her monthly ablution, a team of servants hauling buckets of water, heating it over open fires, the resulting bath a potent mixture of accumulated grime, sweat, and the remnants of days-old cosmetics. It certainly wasn't the relaxing spa experience we associate with modern bathing. Rather, it was a logistical undertaking, a testament to the challenges of maintaining personal hygiene in a pre-modern world. This infrequent bathing, however, didn't preclude Elizabeth from maintaining a public image of elegance and refinement. The key, it seems, lay in the art of masking. Perfume, during this era, wasn't just a pleasant scent. It was a crucial element in managing the less than pleasant realities of infrequent bathing. Strong, often cloying scents were used to mask body odor, creating a fragrant illusion that belied the underlying reality. Think of the layers of perfume, meticulously applied to counteract the natural emanations of a body that hadn't seen soap and water in several weeks. It was a carefully constructed facade, a fragrant shield concealing the truth. This reliance on perfume to manage body odor was not unique to Elizabeth. It was a common practice among the elite, a testament to the limitations of hygiene practices and the importance of maintaining a socially acceptable image. Elizabeth's image, carefully cultivated through portraits and courtly rituals, presented a sharp contrast to the less than hygienic reality of her daily life. The fragrant Virgin Queen, a carefully constructed persona, concealed the less than fragrant reality of her infrequent bathing habits. This carefully constructed image served not only to maintain her public image, but also to project an aura of power and control, further highlighting the complex interplay between personal hygiene, social expectations, and the carefully crafted image of royalty. And as we'll see, this carefully constructed image often hid far more than just the smell of unwashed skin. Pale skin. For centuries, it's been considered the epitome of beauty, a symbol of aristocracy and refinement. But the pursuit of this ideal, particularly among royal women, often came at a steep price. Enter Venetian ceruse, a seemingly innocent cosmetic that held a deadly secret. This wasn't your average face powder. It was a toxic concoction of lead and vinegar, a recipe for disaster meticulously applied to achieve that coveted porcelain complexion. Imagine the ritual. Layers upon layers of this poisonous paste meticulously applied to the face, creating a mask of seemingly flawless beauty. The immediate effect was striking, a stark, alabaster complexion that contrasted sharply with the natural skin tone. But this beauty came at a cost. The lead in the ceruse was slowly poisoning the women who used it, leading to a range of debilitating health issues. The long-term effects were far more sinister. Lead poisoning caused a variety of symptoms, ranging from memory loss and cognitive impairment to severe abdominal pain and even paralysis. The women who used Venetian ceruse were essentially poisoning themselves in the pursuit of beauty, a gruesome irony considering their social standing. And the worst part? They often layered fresh paint over old, without cleansing the skin, increasing the absorption of the toxic lead and compounding the harmful effects. It's a chilling image. These powerful women, rulers of nations, their minds and bodies slowly decaying from the inside out, victims of their own relentless pursuit of beauty standards. They became prisoners of their own vanity, trapped in a cycle of toxic application and ever-worsening health consequences. The psychological toll must have been immense. The constant struggle to maintain this carefully constructed facade of beauty, a heavy burden to bear. Their obsession with this deadly cosmetic serves as a stark reminder of the lengths people will go to conform to unrealistic beauty standards, even when the consequences are life-threatening. And this, of course, is only one horrifying aspect of the royal hygiene practices, or rather, the lack thereof. The pursuit of beauty, as we've seen, often came at a terrible price for royal women. The use of Venetian ceruse, that deadly concoction of lead and vinegar, wasn't just a cosmetic choice. It was a slow, agonizing form of self-poisoning. The effects of lead poisoning weren't immediate. It was a creeping illness, a silent killer that gradually eroded the health and well-being of its victims. Imagine the subtle beginnings, a slight tremor in the hand, a momentary lapse in memory, a persistent headache that refused to abate. These were the early warning signs, often dismissed as mere inconveniences or attributed to other causes. But as the lead accumulated in their systems, the symptoms intensified. The headaches became debilitating migraines, the tremors escalated into full-blown shaking, and the memory lapses became alarming episodes of confusion and disorientation. The progressive nature of lead poisoning is truly terrifying. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic illness. It was a slow, insidious decline, a gradual erosion of both physical and mental faculties. As the lead levels rose, more severe symptoms emerged. Severe abdominal pain, paralysis, and ultimately, premature death. The women who used Venetian ceruse were essentially shortening their lifespans, sacrificing years of their lives at the altar of beauty. Consider the impact on their lives. Imagine a queen, once sharp-witted and decisive, now struggling to remember names, to form coherent thoughts, to perform the duties of her office. The once powerful ruler, now diminished, her physical and mental capabilities compromised by the relentless assault of lead poisoning. This wasn't just a matter of vanity. It was a debilitating illness that profoundly impacted their ability to govern, to lead, to even function effectively in their daily lives. The tragic irony is that these women, often at the pinnacle of power and influence, were victims of a beauty standard they themselves helped perpetuate. Their pursuit of a pale complexion, a symbol of status and elegance, ultimately led to their downfall. The story of lead poisoning among royal women is a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences of prioritizing superficial beauty over health and well-being, a stark contrast to the glamorous image often associated with royalty. And as we continue, we'll see that this is far from the only horrifying aspect of their hygiene, or lack thereof. The pursuit of the pale ideal wasn't just a fleeting fashion, it was an addiction. Royal women became trapped in a vicious cycle of dependency, their desire for pale skin outweighing the ever-increasing health risks. The immediate gratification of a seemingly flawless complexion, achieved through the application of Venetian ceruse, quickly overshadowed the long-term consequences. It was a beauty addiction with deadly consequences. Imagine the feeling. The initial application of the ceruse, the immediate transformation of the skin, the fleeting satisfaction of achieving that coveted pale look. This immediate reward reinforced the addictive behavior, creating a powerful feedback loop. Each application provided a temporary sense of accomplishment, a fleeting moment of beauty that masked the underlying toxicity. But the addiction was insidious. As the symptoms of lead poisoning began to appear, the women didn't abandon their use of ceruse. Instead, they often doubled down, applying more and more in an attempt to mask the effects of the very substance causing their illness. It's a perverse form of self-medication, a desperate attempt to maintain a facade of beauty in the face of deteriorating health. The psychological aspect of this addiction is particularly compelling. These women were not merely victims. They were active participants in their own demise, trapped in a cycle of dependence driven by societal pressures and a relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. They were prisoners of their own vanity, willingly sacrificing their health for the fleeting illusion of beauty. The addiction wasn't simply a matter of physical dependence. It was a complex interplay of societal pressure, psychological conditioning, and the desperate desire to conform to an unrealistic beauty standard. This cycle of addiction and worsening health is a stark reminder of the power of societal pressures and the lengths people will go to meet unrealistic beauty standards. The royal women's obsession with pale skin is not merely a historical anecdote. It's a cautionary tale, a grim illustration of the potentially devastating consequences of unchecked beauty obsession. It highlights the insidious nature of addiction and how easily even the most powerful individuals can fall prey to its relentless grip. And as we delve deeper, we will uncover further unsettling realities about royal hygiene practices. Picture this: towering wigs, intricate braids, elaborate updos adorned with jewels and feathers. These weren't just hairstyles. They were architectural marvels perched atop the heads of royal women, testaments to the artistry and extravagance of the era. But beneath the veneer of elegance lurked a far less glamorous reality, a breeding ground for parasites. The elaborate hairstyles popular among royal women were, ironically, ideal habitats for lice and other unwanted guests. These intricate creations, often constructed with the help of numerous assistants and requiring days to complete, were rarely, if ever, thoroughly cleaned. Think of the layers of hairspray, powders, and oils, combined with the lack of frequent washing, a perfect ecosystem for the proliferation of parasites. Imagine the scene. A royal court, a dazzling display of wealth and power. Yet beneath the opulent gowns and shimmering jewels, a silent plague was flourishing. Lice, fleas, and other tiny creatures found refuge in the dense, tangled masses of hair, thriving in the warm, dark environment. These weren't just a minor nuisance. They were vectors of disease, spreading typhus, typhoid, and other deadly illnesses. The very structures meant to showcase beauty were also incubators of disease. The sheer scale of these infestations is almost unimaginable. With infrequent bathing and a lack of effective pest control, the parasites thrived, spreading rapidly throughout the royal court. The intricate hairstyles, far from being symbols of elegance and sophistication, became a testament to the unsanitary conditions in which these powerful women lived. They were, in a sense, walking biological hazards. The close proximity of individuals in the royal court further exacerbated the problem, facilitating the rapid transmission of parasites from one person to another. It's a grim image. Queens and princesses adorned in finery, yet simultaneously infested with disease-carrying insects. The contrast between the glamorous exterior and the grim reality beneath is jarring, a stark reminder of the disconnect between the idealized image of royalty and the often unhygienic conditions of their lives. This, of course, is only one piece of a much larger and far more disturbing puzzle. The story of royal hygiene, or rather, the lack thereof, continues. Let's talk lice. Not the cute, cartoonish kind, but the real, disease-carrying, royal court-infesting kind. We've already touched on the breeding grounds created by elaborate hairstyles and infrequent bathing, but the sheer scale of the problem and its consequences were truly horrifying. Lice infestations weren't just a matter of discomfort. They were a serious public health crisis. Imagine a royal court teeming with these tiny parasites, spreading disease with every scratch and bite. Typhus, a deadly bacterial infection spread by lice, was a constant threat, capable of causing high fevers, delirium, and even death. Other diseases, spread through similar vectors, also ran rampant. It wasn't a matter of if, but when someone would fall ill. The lack of effective treatments further exacerbated the situation. While various remedies were attempted, none were particularly effective in controlling the spread of lice or treating the resulting infections. The limited understanding of hygiene and disease transmission meant that many of the practices employed were not only ineffective but potentially harmful. Think mercury-based ointments or other toxic concoctions, the cure often being worse than the disease. The situation was further complicated by the social dynamics of the royal court. Close quarters, shared bedding, and the constant proximity of individuals created an ideal environment for the rapid spread of parasites and diseases. It's a chilling picture, a seemingly glamorous world riddled with disease and death, all fueled by a lack of basic hygiene and a limited understanding of disease transmission. The impact of these infestations extended beyond mere physical suffering. The constant threat of disease, the disruption to court life, and the inevitable deaths caused by these parasites had profound social and political consequences. It's a stark contrast to the image of regal splendor often associated with royalty. The reality, however, was far grimmer. A world where even the most powerful individuals were at the mercy of tiny, disease-carrying parasites. And this is just one chapter in the unsettling saga of royal hygiene. The story continues. While lice were undoubtedly a major player in the royal parasite drama, they certainly weren't alone. The unsanitary conditions prevalent in royal courts provided a fertile breeding ground for a whole host of unwelcome guests. Imagine the scene: opulent tapestries hanging in drafty castles, richly upholstered furniture rarely cleaned, and a general lack of sanitation. This wasn't just a breeding ground for lice. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet, for a variety of parasites. Fleas, for instance, were a constant companion, thriving in the carpets, bedding, and clothing of the royal court. These tiny creatures, notorious for their ability to transmit diseases, would have been a pervasive nuisance, causing itching, irritation, and the ever-present risk of infection. And let's not forget the potential for other, less common parasites. Think of the rats and mice, scurrying through the underbelly of the castles, carrying their own array of parasites. These rodents could have introduced fleas, ticks, and other creatures, further contributing to the unsanitary conditions and increasing the risk of disease transmission. The lack of effective pest control and the close proximity of humans and animals created a perfect storm of parasitic infestation. The sheer number and variety of parasites present in these environments would have been staggering. It wasn't just a matter of occasional infestations. It was a constant, pervasive problem shaping the lives and health of even the most powerful individuals. The glamorous image of royalty is starkly juxtaposed with the reality of a life lived amidst a constant swarm of parasites. The lack of sanitation and the prevalence of parasites highlight the stark contrast between the idealized image of royalty and the often unhygienic reality of their lives. The next section will delve into another disturbing aspect of royal hygiene, or rather, the lack thereof. Let's talk about perfume, not the delicate spritz of modern times, but the potent, often overpowering concoctions used by royal women to mask the realities of their infrequent bathing. In a world without reliable sanitation, strong perfumes weren't just a luxury. They were a necessity, a desperate attempt to cover up the pervasive stench of unwashed bodies and decaying organic matter. These weren't your delicate floral scents. Think heavy, cloying mixtures of spices, herbs, and sometimes even animal musk, designed to overpower rather than subtly enhance. The sheer volume of perfume used was staggering, a testament to the intensity of the odors they were trying to conceal. Imagine walking into a royal court, the air thick with the aroma of 1,000 different perfumes, a heady mix of spices and sweat, a fragrant facade masking a less than pleasant reality. The use of perfume also played a significant role in establishing social hierarchy. The more elaborate and expensive the perfume, the higher the social standing of the individual wearing it. Rare and exotic ingredients, imported from distant lands, were reserved for the elite, while simpler, more readily available scents were worn by those of lower social standing. The fragrance itself became a symbol of wealth and power, a way to distinguish oneself from the masses. The irony, of course, is that the very act of masking body odor with strong perfumes only served to highlight the underlying issue of poor hygiene. It was a constant, desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of cleanliness, a fragrant lime masking a less than pleasant truth. The potent aromas, while intended to impress, also served as a constant reminder of the unsanitary conditions in which these powerful women lived. This elaborate charade, however, was just one more piece of a larger puzzle. Our journey through the less than glamorous realities of royal hygiene continues. The scent of a royal court wasn't just a matter of personal preference. It was a carefully constructed social performance, a fragrant hierarchy reflecting the power dynamics within. The types of perfumes worn, their intensity, and the sheer quantity used all served as potent indicators of social status. Imagine the court as a sensory landscape, where the very air you breathed conveyed a message of rank and privilege. The most powerful women, queens and princesses, would have adorned themselves with the most expensive and exotic perfumes. These scents, often incorporating rare and costly ingredients, serve as a potent symbol of their wealth and influence. The sheer extravagance of their perfumes communicated their elevated status, setting them apart from the rest of the court. Think of it as a fragrant declaration of power, a sensory assertion of dominance. Conversely, those of lower social standing would have worn simpler, more readily available perfumes, reflecting their more modest circumstances. The difference in scent could be striking, a fragrant chasm separating the elite from the commoners. This olfactory stratification wasn't merely a matter of aesthetics. It was a powerful social mechanism, reinforcing existing power structures and reinforcing social divisions. The symbolic meaning of scent was deeply intertwined with notions of cleanliness and purity. In a world where frequent bathing was a rarity, the ability to mask body odor with expensive perfume became a proxy for cleanliness, a way to project an image of refinement and hygiene, even in the absence of it. The potent, often cloying scents served as a fragrant shield, obscuring the less-than hygienic realities of court life and reinforcing the illusion of pristine elegance. But this carefully constructed olfactory landscape hides a much more complex and, dare we say, pungent reality. Let's delve deeper into the next layer of this fascinating and somewhat revolting historical tapestry. The Palace of Versailles, a monument to opulence and grandeur, stands as a potent symbol of royal extravagance. But behind the gilded facade, a less-than glamorous reality lurked. The sheer scale of the palace, with its countless inhabitants and sprawling grounds, created a breeding ground for filth and disease. Forget the romantic notion of a pristine royal court. Versailles was, in many ways, a palace of filth. Sanitation was rudimentary at best. Waste disposal was haphazard, with chamber pots emptied directly into the palace's courtyards and gardens. The stench must have been overwhelming, a constant reminder of the unsanitary conditions in which the royals and their courtiers lived. Imagine the accumulation of waste, the overflowing cesspools, and the pervasive smell of decay. It's a far cry from the polished image often presented in history books. The impact on the health of the inhabitants was significant. The lack of sanitation contributed to the spread of diseases like cholera and typhoid, which ravaged the court on numerous occasions. The close proximity of people and animals, coupled with poor hygiene, created a perfect storm of infection. The opulent palace, intended as a symbol of power and elegance, became a breeding ground for disease, a grim irony highlighting the disconnect between the idealized image of royalty and the harsh reality of their lives. The sheer scale of Versailles, intended to impress, ultimately highlighted the limitations of the era's understanding of sanitation and hygiene. The palace's grandeur served as a breathtaking backdrop to the grim realities of disease and decay. This opulent setting, therefore, becomes a potent reminder of the unsanitary conditions even the most powerful individuals were subjected to. Our exploration continues, uncovering yet more surprising aspects of royal hygiene, or lack thereof. Let's delve into the specifics, shall we? Imagine the overflowing chamber pots, their contents sloshing onto the opulent floors, a constant, pungent reminder of the realities of court life. The stench must have been unbearable, a miasma of human waste, decaying food, and unwashed bodies. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a pervasive, inescapable element of daily life within the palace walls. The sheer number of people living in close proximity, coupled with the lack of proper sanitation, contributed to a constant cycle of disease. Rats, fleas, and other vermin thrived in the unsanitary conditions, spreading disease amongst the inhabitants. The palace, a symbol of power and sophistication, became a breeding ground for illness, a constant threat to the health and well-being of even the most powerful individuals. Think of the royal apartments, supposedly symbols of luxury, now envisioned as spaces where the air hung heavy with the stench of decay. Imagine the intricate tapestries and gilded furniture, perpetually coated in a layer of grime and dust. The opulent fabrics, intended to convey an image of wealth and refinement, served only to absorb and retain the pervasive smells of filth. The consequences were far-reaching. Outbreaks of disease were common, decimating the court on numerous occasions. The very air within the palace walls was a hazard, a constant threat to the health and well-being of those who resided there. The contrast between the palace's image of grandeur and the unsanitary conditions within was stark, a potent reminder of the discrepancy between idealized notions of royalty and the grim realities of their lives. The stench of power, it seems, was often accompanied by the stench of something far less appealing. Let's continue our journey through the surprisingly pungent history of royal hygiene. The unsanitary conditions prevalent in royal courts weren't merely unpleasant, they were deadly. Disease ran rampant, claiming lives regardless of social standing. Outbreaks of typhus, typhoid, dysentery, and cholera were commonplace, often devastating entire courts. These weren't isolated incidents. They were a recurring feature of life within the opulent, yet incredibly filthy, walls of royal palaces. Imagine the scene: a grand ballroom, glittering with chandeliers and filled with elegantly dressed courtiers, yet beneath the veneer of sophistication, a silent killer lurked. A single case of dysentery could quickly spiral into a widespread epidemic, spreading through the densely populated palace like wildfire. The lack of sanitation, coupled with the close proximity of individuals, created a perfect storm of infection. The consequences were devastating. Entire families were wiped out, leaving behind a trail of grief and devastation. The death of a royal figure, however, was not just a personal tragedy. It had significant political and social ramifications. The succession to the throne could be thrown into chaos, triggering power struggles and instability. The very fabric of society could be shaken by the loss of a key figure, highlighting the fragility of even the most powerful institutions in the face of disease. Specific outbreaks are well documented throughout history. The Great Plague of London, for example, spared no one, its deadly tendrils reaching even into the royal court. The accounts of these outbreaks paint a grim picture, describing scenes of widespread suffering, death, and chaos. The opulent palaces, intended as symbols of power and stability, became sites of widespread mortality, starkly contrasting the idealized image of royalty with the harsh realities of their lives. Let's examine the next chapter of our unexpectedly morbid exploration of royal hygiene. The cumulative effect of poor hygiene on royal women was devastating, extending far beyond the immediate threat of infectious diseases. The constant exposure to filth, parasites, and toxic substances took a significant toll on their physical and mental well-being. Their lifespans were considerably shorter than what we might expect, a grim testament to the unsanitary conditions they endured. Fertility was another area significantly impacted. The constant exposure to disease and toxins could lead to infertility or complications during pregnancy. Miscarriages and stillbirths were not uncommon, adding another layer of tragedy to the lives of royal women. The dream of a healthy family was often thwarted by the very environment intended to nurture and protect them. Beyond the physical impacts, the constant threat of illness and the pervasive stench must have had a profound effect on their mental health. Imagine living in a palace where disease was a constant companion, where the air was thick with the smell of decay and death. The psychological toll must have been immense, a constant state of anxiety and fear. The glamorous image of royalty belied the reality of their daily existence, a constant struggle against illness and unsanitary conditions. The lack of proper hygiene also affected their appearance, far beyond the intended effects of lead-based cosmetics. Skin infections, sores, and other ailments were commonplace, undermining their carefully constructed image of beauty and elegance. The contrast between the idealized image of royalty and the harsh reality of their physical state is striking, a testament to the disconnect between perception and reality. The next section will explore a fascinating, if somewhat gruesome, aspect of royal hairstyles. To fully understand the horrific hygiene practices of royal women, we must delve into the prevailing cultural norms and beliefs of their time. These weren't simply matters of personal preference. They were deeply ingrained societal attitudes that shaped behavior and influenced perceptions of cleanliness. For centuries, the understanding of hygiene differed drastically from our modern perspectives. Frequent bathing was not always considered beneficial. In fact, some believed it weakened the body and made individuals more susceptible to illness. This misconception coupled with the logistical challenges of obtaining and heating large quantities of water, resulted in infrequent bathing practices across all social classes, not just among royalty. The pursuit of beauty also played a significant role. The pale complexion, considered a sign of high social status, was achieved through the use of toxic cosmetics like Venetian ceruse. The dangers of lead poisoning were largely unknown, and the desire for beauty outweighed the risks. This highlights the lengths to which people went to conform to societal ideals of beauty, even at the cost of their health. Furthermore, the concept of personal hygiene differed significantly from today's standards. The prevalence of parasites like lice was accepted as a normal aspect of life, not something to be actively prevented. The elaborate hairstyles of royal women, while symbols of status and power, ironically provided ideal breeding grounds for these parasites, contributing to the spread of disease. The use of perfume was not merely a luxury, it was a necessity. The strong, heavily spiced scents served to mask the pervasive odors of unwashed bodies and unsanitary environments. This highlights the stark contrast between the idealized image of royalty and the harsh realities of their daily lives. Let's now explore the fascinating, albeit somewhat unsettling, world of royal hairstyles. The fascinating and often disturbing relationship between social status and hygiene practices is a recurring theme throughout history. Certain practices, even if detrimental to health, became markers of high social standing, a perverse form of conspicuous consumption. The very things we now consider horrific indicators of poor hygiene were, in their time, symbols of wealth and power. Consider the elaborate hairstyles of royal women, towering structures of hair, often adorned with jewels and feathers. While these creations were undeniably impressive, they also served as breeding grounds for lice and other parasites. The sheer scale of these hairstyles, requiring hours of preparation and numerous servants, signified the wearer's high social status and access to resources. The infestation of parasites, however, was considered an unfortunate but acceptable side effect. Similarly, the use of heavily spiced perfumes wasn't solely about masking body odor. It was about projecting power and wealth. The intensity and type of perfume worn were directly linked to social status, creating a complex olfactory hierarchy within the court. The stronger the scent, the more potent the message of affluence and power. The ability to afford such extravagant perfumes, regardless of the underlying hygiene issues, highlighted social standing. The pursuit of a pale complexion, achieved through the use of toxic lead-based cosmetics, is another striking example. The resulting lead poisoning, with its debilitating effects, was a price deemed acceptable in pursuit of beauty and social standing. The ability to afford such expensive cosmetics, regardless of their health consequences, served as a strong indicator of wealth and privilege. This bizarre equation of illness with status highlights the warped priorities of the time. The next section will delve into the fascinating and surprisingly complex world of royal hairstyles. The acceptance of practices we now find horrific is inextricably linked to the profound lack of scientific understanding about germs and disease transmission during these periods. The germ theory of disease, a cornerstone of modern hygiene, was still centuries away. Without this knowledge, the connections between unsanitary conditions and illness remained largely obscured. The prevailing theories of disease were often rooted in miasma theory, which attributed illness to bad air or noxious fumes. This led to a focus on controlling odors rather than addressing the underlying causes of disease. The heavy use of perfumes, while masking unpleasant smells, did nothing to prevent the spread of disease-causing microorganisms. The lack of understanding extended to the dangers of toxic substances. The use of lead-based cosmetics, for example, was widespread, with little comprehension of the devastating long-term effects of lead poisoning. The desire for a pale complexion, associated with beauty and high social status, outweighed any perceived risks. The notion of toxins accumulating in the body wasn't fully understood, further contributing to the acceptance of such practices. Even the presence of parasites like lice was often viewed as an unavoidable aspect of life, rather than a preventable health hazard. Treatments were often ineffective, and the understanding of how these parasites spread disease was limited. This lack of knowledge contributed to the widespread acceptance of infestations, even within royal courts. The next section will explore the fascinating and surprisingly gruesome details of royal hairstyles. The stark contrast between the hygiene practices of historical royalty and our modern standards highlights a dramatic shift in understanding and behavior. This transformation wasn't instantaneous. It was a gradual process fueled by scientific discoveries and advancements in sanitation and public health. The development of the germ theory of disease in the 19th century revolutionized our understanding of illness. The work of scientists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch demonstrated the crucial role of microorganisms in causing disease, completely dismantling the miasma theory that had dominated for centuries. This newfound understanding paved the way for targeted interventions aimed at controlling the spread of infectious diseases. Improvements in sanitation infrastructure played a crucial role. The development of better sewage systems, water purification methods, and public health initiatives dramatically reduced the prevalence of waterborne and other infectious diseases. The construction of public baths and the increasing availability of clean water made regular bathing more accessible, transforming it from a luxury to a common practice. Advances in medical understanding also contributed to the decline of harmful practices. The recognition of the dangers of lead poisoning led to stricter regulations on the use of lead-based cosmetics. The development of effective treatments for parasitic infestations, such as lice, further contributed to improvements in overall hygiene. The increased emphasis on personal hygiene, coupled with better understanding of disease transmission, led to a gradual shift in social norms. Regular bathing, hand washing, and other practices that were once uncommon or even considered unhealthy became widely adopted, marking a profound transformation in public health. The next section will explore the fascinating evolution of royal hairstyles. The lives of royal women throughout history present a striking irony. Portrayed as paragons of beauty, elegance, and refinement, these powerful figures often suffered the consequences of hygiene practices that we now find appalling. The very symbols of their status, elaborate hairstyles, toxic cosmetics, and infrequent bathing, contributed to their ill health, even premature death. It's a stark reminder that even the most privileged individuals are not immune to the consequences of their actions or the limitations of their understanding. The pursuit of a pale complexion, considered a mark of beauty and high social standing, led to widespread lead poisoning among royal women. The toxic effects of Venetian ceruse, a lead-based cosmetic, cause a range of debilitating health issues, including memory problems, erratic behavior, and premature aging. These women, lauded for their beauty, were in fact slowly poisoning themselves in the name of fashion. Similarly, the elaborate hairstyles, which required hours of preparation and numerous servants, created a perfect breeding ground for parasites. Lice infestations were rampant in royal courts, spreading disease and contributing to widespread ill health. The very hairstyles that signified power and wealth ironically served as vectors for disease, undermining the health of those who wore them. The disconnect between the idealized image of royalty and the reality of their hygiene practices is striking. The opulent settings, the luxurious clothes, and the carefully cultivated image of elegance masked a grim reality of poor sanitation, disease, and the debilitating effects of toxic substances. The irony lies in the fact that the very practices that were meant to enhance their image ultimately led to their suffering. The next section delves into the intriguing details of royal bathing rituals. Traditional narratives of royal history often focus on the grandeur, the opulence, and the seemingly effortless elegance of royal life. These accounts frequently overlook the less glamorous aspects, the realities of daily life that were far removed from the idealized images presented to the public. By exploring the hygiene practices of royal women, we can reframe the narrative, revealing a more complex and often unsettling picture. The focus on beauty ideals, often at the expense of health and well-being, is a recurring theme. The pursuit of a pale complexion, for instance, led to the widespread use of toxic cosmetics, causing significant health problems and shortening lifespans. The elaborate hairstyles, intended to showcase wealth and status, ironically fostered rampant infestations of parasites, spreading disease throughout royal courts. The unsanitary conditions prevalent in royal palaces starkly contrast with the idealized image of cleanliness and refinement. Frequent outbreaks of disease, shortened lifespans, and compromised fertility were not merely unfortunate occurrences. They were direct consequences of the poor hygiene practices of the time. These realities offer a more nuanced understanding of royal life, revealing the vulnerability and suffering experienced even by those at the pinnacle of power. Reframing the narrative requires a shift in perspective. It involves acknowledging the stark contrast between the idealized images of royalty and the realities of their lived experiences. By acknowledging the less glamorous aspects of royal life, we gain a more complete and accurate understanding of the past. The next section will examine the role of perfumes in masking the pervasive stench of poor hygiene. The exploration of royal hygiene practices throughout history offers valuable lessons that extend far beyond the confines of royal courts. It serves as a potent reminder of the crucial role of sanitation and public health in maintaining well-being and preventing disease. The stark contrast between the idealized image of royalty and the reality of their often horrific hygiene practices underscores the importance of understanding and addressing the interconnectedness of hygiene, health, and societal well-being. The widespread use of toxic cosmetics, such as Venetian ceruse, demonstrates the dangers of prioritizing aesthetics over health. The obsession with achieving a particular beauty standard, regardless of the health consequences, highlights the need for informed decision-making and a critical evaluation of societal beauty ideals. The readily available information about the dangers of lead-based cosmetics in today's world highlights a significant advancement in public health awareness. The rampant infestations of parasites in royal courts reveal the critical role of sanitation in disease prevention. The unsanitary conditions prevalent in royal palaces, despite their outward opulence, underscore the importance of investing in adequate sanitation infrastructure and promoting hygienic practices. The devastating consequences of poor sanitation serve as a stark reminder of the need for effective public health initiatives. The historical lack of understanding regarding germ theory and disease transmission further emphasizes the importance of scientific advancements in public health. The significant progress made in understanding the role of microorganisms in causing disease has led to the development of effective interventions to prevent and control infectious diseases. This increased understanding is a crucial aspect of modern public health. The lessons learned from the history of royal hygiene practices are applicable to modern society. The need for proper sanitation, safe cosmetics, and public health initiatives remains paramount in protecting well-being and preventing the spread of disease. By understanding the mistakes of the past, we can build a healthier future. Our next section will explore the evolution of royal bathing practices. While our focus has been on the hygiene practices of royal women, it's crucial to broaden the lens and consider the experiences of non-royal women during the same historical periods. While the specifics might differ, the overarching themes of limited access to sanitation, societal pressures regarding beauty, and a lack of understanding about germ theory largely applied across social strata. The reality was that poor hygiene wasn't simply a royal problem. It was a societal one. The use of toxic cosmetics, for example, wasn't limited to the royal courts. Venetian ceruse, with its devastating effects, was used by women of all social classes who aspired to the pale complexion considered fashionable at the time. The pursuit of beauty, often at the expense of health, transcended class boundaries. It wasn't just queens who suffered from lead poisoning. It was a widespread problem. Similarly, the prevalence of parasitic infestations wasn't confined to palaces. Lice, fleas, and other vermin were ubiquitous in pre-modern societies, regardless of social standing. While royal courts might have experienced higher concentrations due to proximity and shared living spaces. The underlying problem of poor sanitation affected everyone. The stench of unwashed bodies, a common feature of the era, wasn't exclusive to royalty. However, there were crucial differences. Royal women, with their access to resources, could afford more elaborate hairstyles and more expensive, and often more toxic cosmetics. Their greater access to resources didn't, however, translate to better hygiene practices. The sheer volume of servants required to maintain their elaborate appearances often exacerbated the problem of sanitation. Comparing and contrasting the hygiene practices of royal and non-royal women helps paint a more complete picture of the era. It reveals that the struggles with sanitation, disease, and the societal pressures surrounding beauty were shared experiences, albeit with varying degrees of severity and access to resources. The next section delves into the fascinating evolution of royal bathing rituals. The romanticized image of royalty, carefully cultivated over centuries, often obscures the realities of their lives. Myths and legends surrounding powerful figures frequently paint a picture of effortless grace and impeccable hygiene, a stark contrast to the often unsanitary conditions they actually endured. These carefully constructed narratives serve to protect the image of royalty, conveniently omitting the less palatable details. The persistent portrayal of royal figures as paragons of health and cleanliness stands in direct opposition to the historical evidence. Many popular narratives focus on the superficial aspects of royal life, neglecting the realities of disease, poor sanitation, and the resulting health consequences. This selective storytelling often ignores the very real impact of poor hygiene on the health and longevity of royal women. The creation and perpetuation of these myths serve several purposes. They uphold the idealized image of royalty, reinforcing their perceived superiority and authority. By obscuring the less appealing aspects of their lives, these myths maintain a sense of distance and reverence, bolstering the mystique surrounding the monarchy. However, by critically examining historical records and challenging these long-held beliefs, we can gain a more accurate and nuanced understanding of the past. The contrast between the idealized image and the grim reality of royal hygiene practices highlights the importance of separating fact from fiction when interpreting historical accounts. Unveiling the truth about royal hygiene isn't about diminishing their status or achievements. It's about recognizing the complexities of human experience, even within the gilded cages of royal life. The following section will delve into the fascinating evolution of royal bathing practices, further challenging established perceptions of royal life. The perception of royalty has been meticulously crafted throughout history, a carefully curated image designed to project power, elegance, and an almost divine aura. This carefully constructed narrative, however, often overlooks the less glamorous aspects of royal life, including their often appalling hygiene practices. The image presented is one of effortless beauty and pristine cleanliness, a far cry from the reality of lice-infested wigs and months between baths. This discrepancy between perception and reality is a testament to the power of image management. Royal courts, throughout history, have employed various strategies to control the narrative surrounding their lives. Artists, writers, and courtiers all played a role in creating and disseminating idealized portraits of royal figures, carefully omitting any details that might tarnish their image. The opulent settings of royal palaces, meticulously documented in paintings and writings, further contributed to the perception of immaculate cleanliness. These visual representations, however, often failed to capture the realities of overflowing chamber pots, inadequate sanitation systems, and the pervasive stench that permeated even the most lavish residences. The stunning artwork often masked the stench. The contrast between the carefully constructed image and the often unsanitary realities of royal life serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of critical thinking. It is crucial to approach historical narratives with a discerning eye, questioning the sources and motivations behind the information presented. The romanticized image of royalty, while visually appealing, frequently obscures the complex and often less than ideal realities of their lives. The next section will explore the evolution of royal bathing practices, contrasting the idealized image with the often unpleasant reality. The carefully constructed image of regal cleanliness is about to be thoroughly scrubbed away. Looking back at the hygiene practices of royal women throughout history, it's difficult not to succumb to a certain darkly humorous perspective. The sheer absurdity of it all. The mountains of perfume masking the stench of unwashed bodies. The toxic cosmetics causing the very ailments they were intended to conceal. The elaborate hairstyles teeming with unwelcome guests. It's a comedic tragedy of epic proportions. Imagine the scene. A queen, adorned in silks and jewels, her face caked in lead-based paint, surrounded by courtiers attempting to mask the aroma of a month's worth of accumulated grime. The juxtaposition of opulent surroundings with the realities of poor hygiene creates a darkly comedic tension. It's a situation that borders on the farcical, yet the consequences were far from funny for those involved. The lengths to which royal women went to achieve the beauty standards of their time are almost comical in their extremity. The intricate and often impractical hairstyles, the layers of toxic makeup, the reliance on strong perfumes. It all seems ludicrous from a modern perspective. Yet, within this absurdity lies a sobering truth about the power of societal pressures and the lengths to which people will go to conform. Perhaps the most darkly humorous aspect is the irony of it all. These women, symbols of power and wealth, were often victims of their own social standing. Their access to resources did not translate into better hygiene practices. Rather, it sometimes exacerbated the problem. The irony of royalty's pursuit of beauty leading to illness and premature death is a tragicomic twist worthy of a Shakespearean play. It's important to approach this topic with sensitivity, acknowledging the suffering these women experienced. However, the sheer incongruity of their situation allows for a darkly humorous reflection that adds another layer to our understanding of history. The next section will explore the evolution of royal bathing practices, a journey from infrequent, perilous soaks to the modern-day shower. The pursuit of beauty and elegance, especially within the confines of royal courts, came at a significant human cost. The seemingly effortless grace and allure of royal women often masked a reality of suffering and compromised health. The very practices intended to enhance their beauty often led to debilitating illnesses and premature death. The toxic cosmetics, laden with lead and other harmful substances, caused a range of health problems, from skin irritations to severe neurological damage. The cumulative effects of these toxic concoctions, layered on an already unclean skin, resulted in chronic illnesses and significantly shortened lifespans. The pursuit of a flawless complexion often resulted in a tragically flawed constitution. The lack of proper sanitation and hygiene practices further exacerbated the situation. The resulting infestations of lice and other parasites not only caused immense discomfort, but also spread deadly diseases like typhus and typhoid fever. These outbreaks, often sweeping through royal courts, decimated populations and left a trail of suffering in their wake. The glittering image of royalty often masked a grim reality of disease and death. Furthermore, the elaborate hairstyles, often constructed with the aid of unnatural substances and extensions, contributed to scalp infections and hair loss. The weight and complexity of these creations caused physical discomfort and even migraines. The pursuit of an aesthetically pleasing look often resulted in physical pain and discomfort. The detrimental effects on fertility are also noteworthy. The toxic substances absorbed through the skin and the overall poor health conditions likely contributed to infertility and miscarriages. The idealized image of a fertile queen belied the very real struggles many royal women faced in bearing and raising children. The pursuit of beauty and its attendant rituals tragically impacted their ability to fulfill a key societal role. The next section will explore the remarkable shift in hygiene practices, contrasting the past with a modern era's understanding of sanitation and health. The contrast is stark, and the lessons learned are profound. We've explored the often unsavory realities of royal hygiene throughout history, revealing a stark contrast between the idealized images perpetuated by artists and writers and the often gruesome realities faced by royal women. But this isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a call to critically examine how history is presented and interpreted. For centuries, the narratives surrounding royalty have been carefully constructed and controlled. Official portraits, biographies, and historical accounts often presented a sanitized version of events, glossing over the less glamorous details of royal life. These curated narratives serve to maintain a certain image, projecting an aura of power, elegance, and untouchable perfection. However, by exploring the less palatable aspects of royal history, the lice-infested wigs, the toxic cosmetics, the infrequent baths, we begin to dismantle these carefully constructed illusions. We challenge the traditional portrayals of royalty, revealing a more nuanced and complex picture of their lives. This isn't about rewriting history. It's about enriching our understanding of it. By acknowledging the less glamorous aspects of the past, we gain a more accurate and complete picture of the lives of royal women. We can learn from their mistakes, understand the societal pressures they faced, and appreciate the progress made in hygiene and public health. We must develop a more critical eye when encountering historical narratives. Question the sources, consider the biases, and look for evidence that challenges the dominant narrative. Don't just accept the polished image presented. Dig deeper, explore the details, and construct your own understanding of the past. The history of royal hygiene offers a compelling case study in the importance of critical thinking and the need to challenge traditional portrayals. The next section will delve into the significant advancements in hygiene practices and public health that have transformed our understanding of cleanliness and disease prevention, creating a stark contrast with the practices of historical royalty. As we conclude our journey through the surprisingly pungent history of royal hygiene, let's not simply dismiss these practices as quaint oddities of a bygone era. Instead, let's use this knowledge to reevaluate how we approach historical accounts. The sanitized versions often presented to us, the carefully crafted images of elegance and power, often obscure the harsh realities faced by those who lived them. The lives of royal women, far from being a fairy tale, were often marked by discomfort, illness, and premature death. The pursuit of beauty, dictated by the capricious whims of fashion and societal norms, led to practices we now find appalling. But it's crucial to remember that these women were not simply victims of circumstance. They were products of their time, operating within a system that prioritized aesthetics over health and well-being. This understanding encourages a more nuanced and empathetic approach to history. It's not about judging the past by the standards of the present. It's about understanding the context in which these practices occurred and recognizing the human cost involved. It also compels us to question the narratives we are presented with, to look for the hidden realities lurking beneath the surface of polished historical accounts. Think of the countless portraits depicting queens and princesses with flawless complexions and elaborate hairstyles. These images, often meticulously crafted to project an image of power and perfection, conceal the underlying reality of skin irritations, lice infestations, and a lingering stench of unwashed bodies. This discrepancy between the image and the reality is a stark reminder of the limitations of historical narratives and the need for critical analysis. By acknowledging the often unpleasant realities of the past, we can enrich our understanding of history, fostering a more complete and empathetic perspective. We can appreciate the progress made in hygiene and public health, and we can learn from the mistakes of the past to build a healthier and more informed future. The next section will offer some final reflections on the broader implications of our exploration. The exploration of royal hygiene practices throughout history offers more than just a glimpse into the past. It provides a crucial perspective on the evolution of modern hygiene and the enduring importance of public health initiatives. The stark contrast between the unsanitary conditions of royal courts and the comparatively pristine environments we inhabit today highlights the remarkable progress made in understanding and preventing disease. The historical context underscores the critical link between sanitation, public health, and societal well-being. The widespread diseases and premature deaths resulting from poor hygiene practices serve as a powerful reminder of the devastating consequences of neglecting these fundamental aspects of human life. The advancements in sanitation, medical understanding, and preventative measures are not simply conveniences. They are essential safeguards against the resurgence of historical epidemics. The transition from a time when even monarchs bathed infrequently to an era of readily available clean water, effective sanitation systems, and widespread access to healthcare represents a monumental shift in societal awareness and public health infrastructure. This transformation is not merely a matter of improved comfort. It represents a significant improvement in human life expectancy, fertility rates, and overall quality of life. However, the legacy of historical hygiene practices serves as a cautionary tale. The persistent challenges of ensuring access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare in many parts of the world highlight the ongoing need for global public health initiatives. The disparities in access to these fundamental necessities underscore the importance of continued efforts to improve sanitation and disease prevention worldwide. The story of royal hygiene is not just a historical anecdote. It's a powerful testament to the ongoing importance of public health initiatives and the crucial role they play in safeguarding human well-being. Let us remember the lessons of the past and strive to ensure that the advancements made in hygiene and sanitation are accessible to all, regardless of their social standing or geographic location. The next section will offer our final thoughts on this fascinating and often unpleasant topic. So, we've journeyed through the surprisingly malodorous history of royal hygiene, a journey that has, hopefully, challenged your preconceived notions about the lives of those who occupied the highest echelons of society. While the opulent palaces and lavish lifestyles often depicted in historical accounts certainly existed, they existed alongside a reality far less glamorous, a reality often concealed beneath layers of carefully constructed images and sanitized narratives. The lives of royal women, in particular, were often a complex interplay of privilege and hardship. Their seemingly effortless elegance masked struggles with disease, discomfort, and the ever-present threat of premature death. The pursuit of beauty, driven by societal pressures and a lack of understanding about hygiene, often came at a steep price. These women were not simply figures in a historical drama. They were individuals who experienced joy, sorrow, and the full spectrum of human emotions, all within the confines of their gilded cages. By acknowledging the less flattering aspects of royal life, we gain a more profound understanding of the human condition. The stark contrast between the idealized image of royalty and the often gruesome reality of their daily lives serves as a powerful reminder that even those who seemingly possessed everything were not immune to the common struggles of humanity. It also reinforces the importance of looking beyond the surface, of challenging established narratives, and of seeking a more complete and nuanced understanding of the past. The story of royal hygiene, therefore, is not just a tale of unsanitary practices and unfortunate consequences. It's a story of human resilience, adaptation, and the enduring search for beauty and well-being. It's a reminder that even behind the most extravagant facades, the human experience remains fundamentally the same, marked by both triumphs and setbacks, joy and suffering, cleanliness, and, let's be honest, a fair share of grime. We hope this exploration has been both informative and, dare we say, entertaining. Thank you for joining us on this journey.